I'm a 52-year-old man who has spent almost 3 decades working as an accountant for a modest-sized firm. Like many dedicated fathers, I gave my all to support my family. I clocked endless hours, juggled freelance gigs, and took on any overtime opportunity one could get. My goal was simple: to ensure my daughters, Rachel, now 27, and Jessica, 24, never lacked anything. I pushed myself to the brink, believing I was building a good life for them. I hired private tutors, surprised them with brand new cars for their 16th birthdays, enrolled them in overseas study programs, and paid full tuition at elite universities. I remember surviving on cheap instant noodles for weeks just so Rachel could study Renaissance history in Florence. Their mother, Deborah, left us when Jessica was only 3. She said she felt trapped. Her escape came hand in hand with Marco, her tennis coach. After the divorce, I was granted full custody of both girls. Raising them alone became the most fulfilling chapter of my life. But everything began to change last March. Deborah announced her engagement to a wealthy investment banker named Bradley Harrison. My daughters were over the moon. Suddenly, weekends were spent at his luxury home, and they returned flaunting designer handbags, chattering about yachts and lavish holiday estates. I wasn't thrilled about the sudden shift in their lifestyle, but if it made them happy, I bit my tongue and kept my thoughts to myself. Then came October. I dedicated 2 entire days to preparing a special Sunday dinner with all their favorite dishes. Everything homemade. I even set the table with my late mother's cherished fine china. They arrived late, stepping out of Bradley's sleek Mercedes, both wearing matching Cartier bracelets. Rachel didn't even take off her coat before breaking the news. "Dad, we need to talk," she said plainly. Jessica chimed in almost immediately. They'd be spending Christmas with their mother and Bradley in the French Alps. He had rented a chalet. It stung, but trying to keep a cheerful face, I offered to celebrate the holiday early. Then came the true gut punch. "We need to revisit how we define our family," Rachel said, her voice flat and detached. Jessica elaborated. Bradley wanted to legally adopt them through adult adoption, something to do with estate planning. I sat there stunned, trying to make sense of what they were saying. Then Jessica delivered the final blow. "You're not our biological father. Mom told us she had an affair with Marco before the divorce." The room spun around me. I recalled the DNA tests from the custody battle years ago. Now, Deborah was apparently claiming those results had been forged. Rachel dismissed it all with a shrug. "It doesn't matter. We're moving on." She glanced around my humble home with a look of disdain, as if it were beneath her. Then they walked out. No hugs, no food, not even a goodbye. I stood in silence, surrounded by untouched plates and a hollowness deeper than anything I'd felt in years. 3 days later, I went to the bank and unlocked my safe deposit box. Inside were the original DNA test results. Clear and undeniable, I was 99.9% genetically related to both girls. I reached out to my old friend Sarah, a seasoned family lawyer. With her help, we sent a cease and desist notice, demanding that they immediately stop spreading lies about my paternity. Their response, delivered through Bradley's attorney, was cold and unapologetic. They doubled down on their claims and insisted I cooperate with the adoption process. Jessica even posted on Instagram, celebrating her decision to cut out toxic influences and embrace her chosen family. The caption sat beneath a beaming photo of her and Bradley at an elegant gala. While some followers praised her boldness, others called out her cruelty. Then Bradley began sending me texts. One read, "You've had your chance. Let a real man take the reins." Another followed, "I can give them what you never could." I didn't back down. I replied, "Prove your accusations or stop contacting me." He fired back, "Don't make a fool of yourself. Real men know when to step aside." Then Deborah called. Her voice was sharp with irritation. "Why are you dragging this out?" she snapped. "Bradley has powerful contacts. He can open doors for the girls. Why can't you just move on?" I told her firmly, "They were my daughters. Always had been." She scoffed. "You're being difficult. Don't push us into court. We'll prove we're right." That phone call sparked something in me, a deep unease. So I started digging. A week later, I struck gold, contrary to his carefully polished image. Bradley wasn't the financial genius he claimed to be. Word had already started circulating in my accounting circles. He was under investigation by the SEC for securities fraud. His luxurious mansion? Leased. The yacht he flaunted on social media? Loaned to him by a client who was now suing him. All those grand promises and opportunities were nothing but smoke and mirrors. But the worst was yet to come. I discovered why he was so desperate to legally adopt my daughters. He had been presenting himself to conservative investors as a model family man, and two accomplished adult daughters helped round out that facade. I wasn't the obstacle. I was just an inconvenient truth. The reality was devastating. I had sacrificed everything to raise Rachel and Jessica, only to be tossed aside in favor of a carefully constructed lie wrapped in designer labels and fake affluence. But this wasn't the end. Jessica had a marketing job, and Rachel worked in art curation, both careers that required a polished public image. This adoption wasn't about securing their futures. It was about appearances. Maybe it sounds petty, but instead of confronting them directly, I made quiet moves that sent a clear message. First, I canceled the phone plans, still under my name. Then, I removed them from my credit cards as authorized users. I changed the Netflix password too. Small symbolic acts. But they were just the beginning. I sent each of them an invoice, a detailed bill covering every cent I'd paid for their cars and college tuition. Total, $372,000. The backlash was immediate. Rachel stormed into my office the next day, furious. "Why was my phone shut off during work?" she snapped. I looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Her expression tightened. "Dad, don't joke. This isn't funny. According to you," I said calmly, "I'm not your father." That night, Jessica came to my house, her eyes already brimming with tears. "Daddy, please," she whispered. "We didn't mean it. We were just exploring our options." "Options?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Like pretending I don't exist?" She hesitated, then admitted that Bradley had encouraged them to distance themselves from me. He told them that having a middle-class father would damage his image with high-profile investors. That's why they had to reframe their story. At least now I had the truth. 2 weeks later, everything unraveled for Bradley. News broke that his financial troubles were far more serious than a quiet investigation. He was the subject of a full-blown federal case for running a Ponzi scheme, paying off old investors with money from new ones. The cash was drying up fast. His engagement to Deborah collapsed almost overnight. She discovered that the mansion she flaunted was a rental, and the family wealth she boasted about was a complete fabrication. When it all came crashing down, she tried to slink back into my life, but that door had closed long ago. My daughters, though, scrambled to do damage control. They took to social media again, this time accusing me of financial abuse for requesting repayment of their tuition. Rachel's best friend, even she a young woman I'd once helped through college, someone I considered like family, called me crying. She said Rachel had been telling people I was a heartless villain. Even my own sister reached out, suggesting this was all a big misunderstanding and urging me to let it go. But she wasn't the one who'd been manipulated by a fraud. From that moment on, I let my attorney handle everything. Sarah sent formal notices demanding repayment for the car expenses and set strict deadlines for transferring the vehicle titles. The arrangement was simple: acknowledge me as her father or settle the debt. Soon after, Bradley's attorney fired back with a hostile letter accusing me of blackmail and emotional abuse. They claimed I was sabotaging his career by spreading lies about his financial situation. Sarah just chuckled and said, "Wait until discovery. This will be entertaining." Social media exploded. It became a digital battlefield. Team Dad versus Team Daughters. Their friends launched attacks, while mine rallied to my defense. It was brutal. I didn't respond. I simply watched the drama unfold. A month later, everything came crashing down. Bradley was arrested. Federal agents stormed the lavish home he'd been pretending to own. Deborah was caught trying to sneak out with suitcases of cash. Turns out she was neck deep in the scam, far more involved than anyone suspected. That was the moment my daughters finally opened their eyes. They came to my door, looking nothing like the polished influencers they once pretended to be. The designer outfits were gone. They wore jeans and hoodies. Rachel spoke first. "Dad, we messed up. You made several bad calls. I corrected." Bradley had vanished. Deborah was likely headed to prison. Jessica's voice was shaky. "We need help." "What kind of help?" I asked. "The FBI froze our bank accounts. They think we were part of it because we went to those investor events with Bradley. Were you involved?" I asked flatly. They exchanged a nervous glance. Rachel finally whispered, "We helped him move some money around. He said it was for tax purposes." I sighed. "You'll need an attorney." "A real one." "We can't afford one," Jessica admitted. "Our credit cards are maxed out. Our accounts are locked." "Sounds like a you problem," I said, and closed the door. They walked away in tears. I didn't feel angry, just tired. 3 months passed. Things slowly began to settle. Bradley was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Deborah took a plea deal. 3 years for her part in conspiracy. She flipped on him fast, giving up every detail. My daughters weren't charged. Prosecutors deemed them willfully ignorant, but not legally complicit. Even so, their reputations were trashed. Rachel lost her job at the museum. Jessica was let go from her agency. The scandal followed them everywhere. They moved into a tiny apartment and picked up retail jobs to scrape by. To their credit, they managed to repay around $15,000 for vehicles. I wasn't holding my breath for the rest. Then I received a letter from Rachel. "Dad, I know I can't ask for forgiveness. We chose money over love, lies over family. Every sacrifice you made, every night you stayed up working, every dream you put on hold for us, we threw it all away for luxury and social status. I see that now. I'm so sorry. If there's any part of you that still considers me your daughter, I'd be grateful." I haven't answered. Jessica's letter was much shorter. "I'm sorry for everything. You deserve better. Aunt says you should forgive us. My sister even asked me, aren't they still your daughters? They certainly didn't act like it. As for me, once Bradley's fake empire collapsed, I finally exhaled. I took my first real vacation in years. I started dating again. Actually, I've been seeing Sarah's sister. She's kind, grounded, works as a librarian. No drama, just peace. I also got promoted, senior accountant. Funny how your performance improves when you're not constantly carrying emotional baggage. Do I miss my daughters? Every single day. But truthfully, I miss who I thought they were, not who they turn out to be. Will I ever forgive them? Maybe. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. Trust is earned, and they've got a long road ahead. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Love may be unconditional, but respect is not. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. It's helped just being able to tell it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a life to enjoy. And to answer the questions I get the most, yes, the DNA tests are real. They were part of the original custody case. No, I'm not paying their legal fees. Yes, they're both trying to rebuild their lives. No, I don't regret cutting ties. And yes, I've kept all the receipts.